Missouri farmers use a ferry at Meyer, Illinois to get their grain from the Missouri location across the Mississippi River into Illinois. What we're watching now is the ferry docking. It currently has one semi and two smaller trucks on the load, and as you can tell, as they get closer, the trucks are loaded with grain, getting ready to go over to the Illinois side and dump their loads of corn and beans primarily. This ferry has been in existence for a number of years, and the farmers certainly have relied on it for a key part of their transportation system when marketing their grain. This Meyer elevator location is very key for the Ursa Farmers Co-op, which has multiple locations, mainly so that they have a great access to the Mississippi River, where the grain can be loaded on barges and then shipped downriver to the port of New Orleans. Farmers use all different kinds and sizes of trucks, as we can see here. Here we have a truck that is now coming on to the scales to be weighed, and then they will take the probe and test his grain to see how he unloads his truck. Here we're inside the elevator scale house, as they call it. Two of the people here are taking samples of the grain that we saw with the probe outside, and they're instructing the farmers when they have the sample taken. The gentleman then pours it into a tester that gives the amount of moisture. What else, Terry? Test weight? Gives the moisture and the test weight of the grains. He waits for the next truck to come out front. He then guides the probe to get the sample. It is vacuumed up into the probe, which is what he's doing right now at a couple of 3 locations. The sample's then taken and again checked for moisture and for test weight. Here we're observing a farmer who has pulled up onto a system where he is weighed. And what happens is that his truck is weighed when it's full. The grain is probed with the tall yellow thing to see the quality of the grain. And then the truck leaves that location, goes across the road to be unloaded, and then after he's unloaded, he'll come back and be weighed again, and that's how he knows how many bushels he's had in the truck. That particular truck is full, so it's now coming down the hill after it's been weighed and is going to the location where he'll unload his grain. We're at the Meyer location right now watching a truck of corn being unloaded into the pit that will then go back into the elevator to be dried and stored until the farmer's ready to sell it. There's 2 options a farmer may have. He can either store the grain as he dumps it today, or he can put it on storage, as they call it, to be marketed at a later time. Of course, the gentleman in the foreground is very key in the unloading process. He's a gentleman that helps the farmer unload his grain here at the elevator. Pretty soon you'll start noticing that the truck is starting to raise a little bit. That's so that the grain can come with gravity down into the pit. It travels from the pit with a conveyor belt and then is taken to the right bin. Once the farmer does get all of the grain out, as you can see, it's a very dusty and dirty job. The grain's piling up into the pit where it'll then be conveyed to other locations. This gentleman has already been weighed, has already dumped his grain, and has now been weighed empty and is ready to return to his location. What we're looking at now is the trucks after they've unloaded on the Illinois side and are now returning to their farms on the Missouri side. Many of the farms are at least 15 to 20 miles from the river location, so therefore many times it might take as long as an hour and a half to 2 hours for them to make the trip to the river, across the ferry, and then wait in line to get their grain unloaded and then the return trip. Therefore, a lot of farmers have multiple trucks so that they can keep the flow going.